are listening to Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. Thanks for joining us. I am your host, Naomi Slater, and you have tuned in to Divine Couples, adding intimacy, passion, and healing to your lives. Creator of the e-sensual tantric massage and energy-based sensuality and tantra systems, Chris is a tantra sensuality and sex educator and internationally recognized Tai Chi and Qi Kong master. He is a member of the USA and International Martial Arts Halls of Fame and two-time U.S. National Tai Chi champion. With over 4 decades of experience in these fields, Chris conducts workshops and retreats throughout Europe, Asia, Australia, and the Americas. Having the unusual upbringing of being trained in these fields since his childhood, Chris draws upon 45 plus years of training in tantric practices, meditation, Eastern mysticism, and relational energetics, as well as Qigong and Tai Chi, to design these detailed and fun workshops, each of which addresses vitally important aspects of human relating from an energetic standpoint. He is a regularly featured presenter at international conferences on Tantra, sexuality, and consciousness, as well as those on Chinese martial arts. Hello, Chris. Thanks for coming back.
Hi, thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, so we're going into the second interview, part 2. And in the last interview, we focused on your work as an energy-based Tantra massage teacher. And in this interview, I wanted to talk to you about some upcoming changes in your life and how all of these parts connect. So when we spoke, you told me that you're planning on moving to Southeast Asia, and I would love if you could tell us a bit about your plans.
Okay. Well, my plans are a little bit up in the air, and it's been a sort of a daily process, primarily, obviously, because of this pandemic. Otherwise, I would have already been moved over there. But so I'm waiting for the right country to open up at the moment, and it's been shifting constantly. It just shifted yesterday to a new country.
Really? So, which one?
Well, gosh, it shifted over to Bali, but I really hate to get my hopes up because, so far as it goes from one place and then they shut down, and then it's another place opens up and then they shut down again. So it's really hard to tell. A window is going to open, and I'll have to jump through the window quickly. Basically,
well, you are obviously a very adventurous person.
Yeah, I've spent my life on the road in the world, literally since I was 13.
Yeah.
So the world is, is very, very much my home and my playground.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful.
It is. It's been good.
And I know that you're moving to be with a special lady.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And so she just got her passport renewal completed last night, and we have to wait 20 days for that to get to her, and then we're start getting on a plane, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I'm wishing you the best of luck, hoping that you find the right place to settle down in. And that is a big move. You've essentially, even though you've been traveling, you've lived in the U.S., you were raised in the U.S., so that's a totally different culture to immerse yourself in. And right. I know that the West's exaggerated focus on materialism has influenced your decision to move, and I would love it if you could speak to that a bit.
Yeah. And I think also for me, as far as living in a different culture, I mean, I would be a little bit more apprehensive about what it'd be like living in a completely different culture if it wasn't for my work, because I travel out basically every 8 to 10 weeks. I travel out on the road to teach workshops, so I'm I have my sort of more Western-based community in Europe and in the U.S. and Australia, around the world, that I would be visiting regularly throughout the year, but living in this new location is my home base.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I lost the details of your question.
No, it's okay. I know that, when we spoke, we had a conversation about materialism in the West, and that was kind of part of, at least, what was motivating you to move, aside from, this wonderful woman that you want to be with. But if you could kind of speak to that.
Yeah. Well, basically, it actually came through, I guess this particular motivation around this got pushed to its breaking point through relationships. And again, because I had sort of grown up in a sort of tantric esoteric school and a spiritual environment since age about 15, all of my adult relationships had been within these spiritual schools and realms, but also, I've been training in Chinese martial arts and Qigong energy work and all this since I was very, very young. And my profession was basically my teachers, the masters that I worked with, basically kind of pushed me. Each of my teachers pushed me further into my profession. They actually created it for me. They said, no, you need to open your school. You need to teach now. Okay, now you need to open a school here. Or here, take one branch of my school and start your school with that. And so I actually never chose any of this. I mean, consciously, I never said, hey, I think I'll do that. What do you think? I was always the person being told, oh, now it's time for you to do this. Now it's time for you to do that. Now it's time for you to do this. So I never went through I actually have never had the thought in my entire life of what will I do when I grow up? What will I do for my profession? What will I do? How will I contribute to the world and to humanity? I've never had those questions ever, because it just was happened organically, and I was pushed into each of these things. So I was very fortunate in that I never had to go through that at all. I never had to go through asking the question or wondering what I was going to do or how I would contribute to the world or whatever. So I just want to say that first, is that that's sort of an important factor in what I'm experiencing. And so I was very, very fortunate, obviously. But as I was involved in my romantic relationships with my former wife or this partner or that partner throughout the decades, my partners were, I experienced my partners as being in existential angst most of the time, because they what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to be? What's my career going to be? How am I going to contribute to the world and to humanity? How am I going to bring spirituality into my work and my career? And, I was always in the position of supporting people through that. I mean, continuously, 30, 40 years of supporting people through that. And, okay, well, let me help you with this, or let me help you with that, or let me, help support you through massage school or whatever it is. And as we got later in the last 20-ish years, there's even more focus on, how can I be important in the world? How can I be the next Tony Robbins? How can I be the next famous author? How can I have more followers and be richer and more famous, And so I had all these partners that were, that's what was going on, was,
they want to be seen.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Thank you. Okay. So they want to be seen and so on, but this is all, I guess I could say this is all a focus on external validation. I've got more followers than so-and-so. I got a million followers now, or whatever it is, or, I'm the author of this and that and the other. And it just became really tiring for me, I guess, eventually. I mean, I was fine in that role for a long time, but it got to a point where I was sort of done babysitting.
Done with it, yeah.
I don't mean that in condescending, but I mean just, the babysitter is an important person, but I was done being the babysitter, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And so I actually became unable to actually date anybody in a romantic sense, any Westerners. I just couldn't do it anymore, because there was just this too much of this materialism and existential angst and external need for validation going on.
Yeah.
And I know this. It's not just women. It's just that I was dating women, right? But I'm sure it's happening for everybody. And that just really pushed me towards wanting to find was there some pool of people that I could be romantically involved in the world who didn't have such a heavily programmed and ingrained need for external validation and for material validation, I guess. And so this, it was like this long list. The idea was that there was this long list of things that the people I was seeing here in the West need to be happy. And this list was like 50 items long. And if I don't have these things, I'm not going to be happy. And I was like, wow, that may never happen. That's a long list. And I wonder if there's people in the world that have shorter lists and are therefore accomplishing a greater degree of happiness.
Yeah.
And that's basically kind of where my focus went.
And you find that people are, that they have shorter lists in that area of the world in Asia? I'm finding it that in any place, any country, let's say if we want to use countries, any country where, Western marketing and advertising and corporate capitalism has been limited, I find that there is people have shorter lists and greater degrees of happiness, I think, and more accomplishable happiness. And I saw that particularly when I went to Myanmar, and I went to Myanmar for this exact reason. I went there because, let's say this, I was in Bali almost 40 years ago, or I don't know, over 35 years ago. And I was there before it got really heavily inundated with Western society and so on, and, corporate capitalism, et cetera. And I saw something very special there. I saw how really pure these people were, and how sort of present and happy and pure, and these had these very small lists of what it was easy for them to be happy. So I, 3 decades later or more, I went, where else in the world can I find that? Because Bali's kind of lost that a bit, and where else can I find it? And I realized that Myanmar has been shut down. Burma or Myanmar has been shut down for like 50 years. It's been closed to the outside world. Yeah.
And until like 10 years ago or something, or 8 years ago. And I thought, well, this is it. This is the last large-scale culture on the planet that has not been basically been brainwashed by corporate capitalism and marketing. So that was my objective in going there, and just to spend time in Burma with the people and just feel the energy of psyches that haven't been, polluted in that way. And so those are sort of extreme examples. And so, yes, I find that in varying degrees in undeveloped countries or countries that have not been inundated with that corporate capitalism.
Yeah, I can see that also quite clearly. I've also traveled Southeast Asia pretty extensively, and ironically, but not so ironically, oftentimes in some of the poorest areas, you see some of the most joyous and happy, smiling faces. Here you have people, walking around in suits and ties, and they look that they're, they look so depressed. And there you see people living in what, Westerners would consider below the poverty line, without a doubt. And they're just so happy, they wave to you when you walk by or when you drive by, and the kids are playing, and it's a very, very different mentality. And it's, there's something really beautiful about it. I agree. So
I have a huge smile on my face just hearing you give that description. I could just have so many flashbacks.
I